And now with our invocation, Karen Blackman.
Excuse me. If you would all bow your heads in prayer with me, please. O God, creator and sustainer of life, we give you thanks for the bounty of grace and blessings that come from your hand and are so grateful for life and health and well-being. We thank you for meaningful work to do and for opportunities to serve others, particularly those in need of comfort, of material goods, of companionship, and of hope. Bear fruit in us and through us, O God, as we seek to serve the world in which we live in your name. Bless our times of thanksgiving with family and friends, and call us to a life consistent with gratitude and response to your grace. In the name of Jesus, for whom we give thanks. Amen.
Thank you, Karen. And now to introduce our Rotarians, Blake. Thank you, Blake.
Thank you. I forgot what I was doing. I was trying to get my seat. Welcome, everybody. Thank y'all for coming here today. It didn't quite get as warm as we expected so far, but I think it's going to be. So we have one visiting Rotarian, Mr. Jim Hudson from East Columbia. Thank you. And if you have any guests, if you could please stand up and introduce your guests, I appreciate it.
Good afternoon. I have with me Jen Thompson, is CEO of Lighthouse for Life.
I'm Kay Shaw, and I'm pleased to have as my guest today Kate Abdullah. Kate is an associate with Parker Poe.
Good afternoon. I'm Henry Baskins with Columbia Chamber, and with me here today is Audra Havisher. Audra is with our Development Department and with Partner Relations.
John Irie, glad to have Frank Barron with me today. Frank was coroner of Richland County for 21 years. The last couple of months, he's graduated from the Citadel with a, what degree? Criminal justice. Criminal justice, there we go. And was honored last month by Governor McMaster with the Order of the Pound
I'm Mason Hardy with Creative Financial Strategies. Today I have with me Jonathan Milling. Jonathan has his own law firm here in town, and he also has 2 sets of twin children. So if you're doing the math, that's 4 kids, which brings us to the reason why he's here. He's running for Richland 1 School Board in the special election on New Year's Eve. That's December 31st. You all can start doing absentee balloting today, but you can actually do voting starting December 2nd in person at the Richland County Election Commission. But everybody remember Jonathan Milling for the December election for Richland 1 School Board.
Good afternoon. I'm Alan Warberson, and my guest today are Laura Sosa. And Laura is our exchange student who is attending AC Florida from the Canary Islands, which is a province of Spain. And my special guest is Kayla Harmon, who is Director of Communications for the South Carolina Council on Competitiveness.
Thank you to all of our guests and for our members who brought guests. Thanks to Kayla for helping me greet since she was at the door helping me out a little bit. And don't forget, there's an election tomorrow. Is that right? The runoff is tomorrow for the city council, and then the election on December 31st. Thank y'all.
Thank you, Blake. And now health and happiness, Andy Shea.
Good afternoon, everyone. So a few announcements before I explain why I'm wearing the hat today. First of all, with our speaker today, it's a good time to update where we are on our cart fundraising for for both the district and for the club. And I've been told that for the district, for the past 6 months, we've raised $61,000 as a whole for the district. And here at this club, we have raised $1,872. That's an average of about $9 per club member. Just as a comparison for the district, the number is about $43 is the average in the district. And what I was told was that if every member here in our club gives 50 cents every week, we would be able to raise our per average from $9 to $24. So think about that. If you can give a little bit more to your cart buckets, obviously we'd be a little bit more of a contributor to these things, as well as help a lot of folks. So something to think about, especially as we're getting to the season. I understand that Libby Goldberg has an announcement to make about Keyshore. And if you can, if you don't mind, you know what, you can grab the head sheet. Make sure to give this back.
Yes, thank you. I'm doing this announcement for our friend Keyshore simply because I'm louder than he is. But he has made a very generous offer to our club. As you know, Keyshore manufactures and exports diamonds and custom-made jewelry. He is kicking off for the holiday season, but this will continue even after. Any club members, and keep in mind, he does not sell, he's a wholesaler. So any club members that want to buy jewelry from him, you get the exceptional quality, of course, and the cost is just above what it cost him to do it. But also in this campaign, he is going to make a donation to Rotary for everything that is bought. So a percentage of that will go to Rotary. So I think that's a very generous offer coming from him. So anybody just see Keyshore, want to place your order.
And thank you for doing that, Keyshore. That's great. So why am I wearing the hat? It's bell ringing. Hey, that's an appropriate segue. It's bell ringing time. Chase Heatherly and I are overseeing the administration of the bell ringing this year. Chase is out of town today, so I'm stepping in, and I remember that we had a hat at the house, so I asked my wife where it was, and after a concerted effort, we remembered where it was, and I said I was going to wear it today to Rotary to remind everyone, please sign up for bell ringing. It is really easy to do online. And also, to give you a heads up, it starts this week. The first shifts that we have at Piggly Wiggly are at the end of the week. So please sign up. Please sign up more than once. Please sign up your friends, your families, your enemies, your frenemies, whoever you know. I also remind those of us who are parents who have kids who need service points either at their school or at church. This is a good way of getting your volunteer service time in, by maybe getting a youth group or youth groups, or just grabbing youths in general to help ring the bells. And I do it with my daughter. We have a great time doing it. She gets to meet a lot of people. She gets to hug a lot of people. I'm a hugger. So it's just a great way to do that. And hopefully the weather won't be as cold as it's been lately. You know, one of the ways, I guess, to segue into this and then for health and happiness is, you know, I was just thinking that it is going to be that time of season, and I'm already noticing that on television they're already promoting the movies and the television shows. And I have 3 that are my personal favorites, so I picked some quotes from my 3 favorite of the holiday, the Christmas shows that I like. And the first one, of course, is Charlie Brown. I kind of relate to Charlie Brown. I always, you know, always felt like a kid that kind of was out of sorts. And I always liked this line from the Charlie Brown Christmas, where he goes to the mailbox and it's empty, and he goes, "Rats, nobody sent me a Christmas card today. I almost wish there was not a holiday season. I know nobody likes me, so why do we have a holiday season to emphasize it?" And of course, I married Lucy. I'm going to be honest with you, I married a Lucy Van Pelt, and this line kind of, I think, sums up a lot of people we know, where she's talking to Charlie Brown. "You know, I know how you feel about this Christmas business, getting all depressed and all that. It happens to me every year. I never get what I really want. I always get a lot of stupid toys or a bicycle or clothes or something like that." Charlie Brown asks, "Well, what is it you want?" Lucy says, "Real estate." All right, one of my big favorites is Elf. I'm a big Will Ferrell fan, and I think Elf is really the biggest ones. And always, my daughter always sits here and reminds me of this at least once during the holiday season when I say, will you please eat something that isn't, that you should eat. And she goes, and she reminds me of the line where he goes, we elves try to stick to the four main food groups: candy, candy cane, candy corn, and syrup. And I think one time she actually made me make her all of that together so she could see how perfectly disgusting it was. The other part that I really like is when he talks to, when the elf is talking to his father that he's found in New York, and they plan their day, and I've always wanted a day like this. I planned out our whole day. First, we're going to make snow angels for 2 hours. Then we're going to go ice skating. And then we're going to eat a whole roll of Toll House cookie doughs as fast as we can. And then when we finish, we'll snuggle. So I always think that would be a great way to spend time with the family. My wife's favorite line, and I told her I would read this today, from the movie is when he meets with the manager and he's trying to get him to work. And the manager says, notices, of course, the elf is always happy. He goes, why are you smiling like that? And Buddy goes, well, I like to smile. Smiling's my favorite. And the manager comes back and says, make work your favorite. That's your favorite, okay? Work is your new favorite. Now go. So my wife always kind of says that to folks to try to make sure that they stay focused at work during the holidays. So finally, what I also like is Christmas Vacation. And of course, a lot of the lines I really don't want to say are rubbery because they're not appropriate. So I'm going to go ahead and read really my favorite part, my favorite line from it. But of course, you'll know that I've had to exercise it for the G-rated group I'm with today. Obviously, this is the point where Clark is very upset and everyone's threatening to leave the house towards the end of the movie. Where do you think you're going? Nobody's leaving. Nobody's walking out of this fun, old-fashioned family Christmas. No, no, no. We're all in this together. This is a full-blown, four-alarm holiday emergency here. We're going to press on, and we're going to have the happiest Christmas since Bing Crosby danced with Danny Kaye. And when Santa squeezes his fat, down that chimney tonight, he's going to find the jolliest bunch of folks this side of the nut house. And finally, this was a very honest conversation, the one I felt I've had with my father-in-law at one point. Clark is talking to his father, he's kind of upset about things. He says, our holidays are always such a mess. And his father says, yeah. And Clark says, how'd you get through it? He said, a lot of help from Jack Daniels. And finally, just to get you in the mood to obviously bell ring and sign up for more than one shift and get your friends to shift and get, as I said, everybody to shift, I will sing from I want to read the last two pages of the Gospel of Dr. Seuss from The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, which I read to my child most. Even though she's 17, she still asks me to read it at least once every Christmas. So I just want you to remember towards the end, here we go. And the Grinch, with his Grinch feet, ice cold in the snow, stood puzzling and puzzling. How could it be so? It was without ribbons, it was without tags, it was without packages, boxes, or bags. And he puzzled for 3 hours until his puzzler was sore. Then the Grinch thought of something he hadn't before. Maybe Christmas, he thought, doesn't come from a store. Maybe Christmas, perhaps, means a whole lot more. And what happened then? Well, in Whoville they say that the Grinch's heart grew 3 sizes that day. And the minute his heart didn't feel quite so tight, he whizzed with his load through the bright morning light. And he brought back the toys, and he brought back the food for the feast. And he was there to cut the roast beast. So with that, obviously, happy pre-holidays. Hopefully have a good Thanksgiving. And again, thank you for all you do for Rotary, and thank you for all you do for your families and your friends.
Thank you, Angie. So much. Now, I just have a few announcements. The board meeting will be right after this meeting in the room behind us. And a fireside chat tonight at Capital Consultants' new offices on Thurman Mall. If you don't know the directions, just ask. But it's going to be a real Rotary day today, full of Rotary things. Okay, what else? Oh, opportunities for service. We've got a lot of those coming up, but a few, I'd like to thank you for the ones that we've already done, the cooperative ministries, the clothing drive. Think of all those people that you've made happy with warm wool clothes. So appreciate your contributing last week. And now, our Assistant Governor, Eric Davis, is here to thank those that participated in World Polio Day.
All right, can you hear me now? Okay. Thank you to everyone who participated and volunteered in World Polio Day, and I have some certificates of appreciation for those who volunteered. Is Becky Earhart here? And Doug Cochran. And Cynthia Giles. Cynthia did a lot for World Polio Day. I was only in charge of finding the volunteers, and that almost gave me a stroke. I can't imagine the stress that she was under. Brad Henry. Glenn Matthews. Lenny brought his wife Melanie along. Hunter Wilson. And last but not least, Louisa Campbell. Thank you so much for having
me. Yeah, I just want to remind you, as Andy said, that the Salvation Army bell ringing has already started this week, so be sure and sign up. December 7th, we have the food packing event here at Siebel starting at 8:30, that's Saturday the 7th. It's going to benefit families of Richmond School District 1 area, so please be sure that you sign up. I think there are things on sign-up sheets on your table, like this. So please sign up. We need as many people as we can. And then the Club Social is on December 16th at the Lace House, the Governor's Mansion Complex. So make sure you write that on your calendar. And we have other things after Christmas, so stay tuned. Now, John Denise is going to give us an update on the foundation.
Thank you, President Louisa. This is really a perfect segue, and Andy did a great job of kind of teeing this up, talking about this time of year and giving and being thankful for what we've got and looking out for those that have less than we do. And so I'm here to talk to you today about the Rotary Foundation. The Rotary Foundation is really the giving arm of Rotary International. And starting in the mid to late 80s, they launched the Polio Plus campaign, which was a really audacious program to try and eradicate polio throughout the world. And as we'll have other updates throughout the year, we're really close to getting that done. But that's not all that the foundation does. And the foundation, like I said, it's the giving arm for Rotary International, and it supports things all around the world, peace initiatives, clean water initiatives, literacy initiatives, easy to say. And so it's really important that we all support the foundation. And this is the perfect time of year to do it, with it being Thanksgiving and the holiday season coming up. Also, as the CPAs in the room will tell you, this is a great time to make a tax-deductible contribution to your favorite charity. And just as a yardstick, Bill Gates is one of the, at one point he was the richest person on the globe, and he decided years ago that he was going to give away the vast majority of his wealth. And he and his wife Melinda started the Gates Foundation, and they looked at all the charities throughout the world, and they got behind Rotary and the Polio Plus campaign. So they're the individual largest contributor to Polio Plus and to Rotary, because they determined that that's the best use of their money. And the efforts and the organization behind Rotary International was in such a good position to make an impact. And so, if it's good enough for Bill Gates, I figure it's probably good enough for us, because I can tell you that's a very thorough individual who researches some things. So to talk about that, this is Rotary Foundation Month, which is a great time because it's Thanksgiving, Christmas season is coming up, and there's a district matching points campaign. So from now until the end of the year, or until the money and the points run out, any contribution you make to the foundation will be matched by the district. So some people have asked about where they stand with Paul Harris Fellow contributions and everything, so I hold in my hands the report that Mason pulled for me this morning or Friday or something. So this is the latest data that we have, and if you come up to me after the meeting, I'll be happy to look you up, and you can look yourself up and you'll see how much you've contributed towards the Paul Harris, towards the foundation and to becoming a Paul Harris Fellow. One of the other interesting things is once you become a Paul Harris Fellow, everything you contribute above and beyond that are points that are available that you can donate to somebody else. So you can recognize a spouse, a child, another person in Rotary who you think has made a big contribution, you want to help them on their way to becoming a Paul Harris Fellow. So we highly, highly encourage you to participate now and here at the end of the year and get these tax deductions in and get yourself to the next Paul Harris Fellow. But we also want to stress the importance of the Every Rotarian Every Year program, where even if you're a Paul Harris Fellow with 10 sapphires, we still encourage you to contribute every year to the Every Rotarian Every Year campaign, which is a total of $100 for the year, and that's not, we feel like not a huge ask. So we ask you to consider doing the Every Rotarian Every Year program, but also take a hard consideration to making a contribution to the foundation before the end of the year.
And now, excuse me, to introduce our speaker is John Bacus.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians and friends. It's been a long time since I've been up here and looked at you all in the face from up here at one time, and that's really nice to see all of your smiling faces again at once. It seems like we rush in and rush out of here and don't get the chance to really see each other. The ones on that side of the room don't see the ones on that side of the room, and it's a pleasure to be here and see all of you. I am honored to have this task today to introduce Rod Funderburk. Rod is somebody I've known for a good while in Rotary, and one of the people I admire most in Rotary. He's one of those folks that's Rotarian to the core. He does so much for Rotary in his normal life. And he is, I'm not sure whether he's actually semi-retired or not, but Rotary's his first job, and he works as a consultant in his second job. I want to let you know a little bit about him in detail. And Rod was a founding member of the Lake Murray Elmo Rotary Club. He was president of the club 91 to 92. He was assistant governor 2010 to 13, and he has been our district governor in 2016. He was honored as the Club Rotarian of the Year at his club, and he was the district 7770 Rotarian of the Year this year. And certainly, I can't think of anyone who deserves that honor any more than he does, because he worked so hard for Rotary. He's currently the District 7770 Cart Fund Chair, and he is the Secretary of the Cart Fund. He's a Rotary Foundation Major Donor, Paul Harris Society member, a benefactor, a Bequest Society member. He's a 10-star Rotarian, and he's been very active in the Rotary Leadership Institute. Has been director, instructor, has done just about everything in that. Probably the only thing he's dedicated to more than Rotary is his wife of 43 years, Rowena. He has children and grandchildren, and he is one of those people that all of us who are fairly active in Rotary look up to, because he does so much for our organization. So I give you Rod Funderburk.
Well, good afternoon. This question on the screen is, would you volunteer for Alzheimer's? Is not so you can raise your hand. I don't want anybody to embarrass themselves. I used to ask the question for you to raise your hand, and I actually got somebody to raise their hand one time, so I don't do that anymore. What I really want you to do is to think about the Alzheimer's disease. It is a disease we don't like to talk about. In fact, it's one of those diseases we want to keep in a closet. If our mom or dad or our aunt or uncle or grandfather, grandma have Alzheimer's, we kind of want to keep it to ourselves and not advertise it. But I really want you to think about it today, because each of us can have Alzheimer's, and in some cases not even know it. 1 in 11 men can look forward to Alzheimer's in your lifetime. 1 in 6 women can look forward to in their lifetime. And the difficulty of that statistic is when a female gets Alzheimer's, it is typically a more aggressive form than the males get, and so you die quicker. It is one of the dementia family. In fact, it occupies the most patients of all the dementia family. About 500,000 Americans are diagnosed each year. And that doesn't count those who have dementia and are not actually diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And in fact, a lot of dementia patients are never diagnosed. But 500,000 is the official diagnosis per year for Alzheimer's disease. It is the most common form of dementia. It's not a normal part of aging. Sometimes we think that simply being forgetful is a normal part of aging. That's perhaps true, but having Alzheimer's is not normal. It worsens over time. There's no cure at this point. It is the 6th leading cause of death. That is only important to most people because the other 5, the 5 above it, all have preventions or cures. Cures, that is, if you find them soon enough. Alzheimer's has neither at this point. Let me introduce you to Auguste. She was a patient at the Frankfurt, Germany hospital, checked in 1901 at age 51. She had numerous difficulties, including memory loss, deficiencies in language, and lots of other physical issues. They treated her for 5 years unsuccessfully, and she died in 1906 at age 55. Her doctor was Alois Alzheimer. He wrote a paper on her disease, and therefore the disease is called Alzheimer's disease. When he did the autopsy on Auguste, he found 2 issues in her brain that were not normal. One was tau tangles and one was amyloid beta plaques. Those 2 issues have become the hallmark of Alzheimer's patients from that point forward. Every Alzheimer's patient, if you do an autopsy after death, and you really want to wait till after death to look at the brain inside, but every patient with Alzheimer's has these 2 issues in the brain, tau tangles and amyloid beta plaque. A huge amount of research has been done on those 2 items over the years, and we are yet to figure out how to prevent them or how to cure them. This chart simply indicates to you the more amyloid beta plaques you have and the more tau tangles you have, the more cognitive dysfunction you have. In other words, the more issues you have with memory and the more issues you have with bodily function. Look at the chart on the right. You will see that the Alzheimer's disease patient's brain is smaller than a normal brain. And the reason for that, according to research, is the amyloid beta plaque and the tau tangles tend to shrink the brain. This is probably the most important chart you will see all day long from me. If you look at the bottom red square, that is an Alzheimer's patient's brain. The top red square is a normal brain. The black dots represent connectors within your brain. The lines represent the nerve endings between the connectors. Picture for a minute a cell phone. All of you probably have one. If you want to make a call, the call goes from your cell phone to a cell tower, probably to a 2nd or 3rd or 4th cell tower on its way to the destination. If one of those cell towers is damaged, Your call simply has to be rerouted. It may take a few milliseconds longer to connect. You probably will still be connected successfully. However, picture a number of those cell towers being damaged or down, and you can end up with no call at all going through. The same is true for your brain. The black dots in this picture are the millions and millions of connectors within your brain. And as you have more tau tangles and more amyloid beta plaques, those connectors become damaged to the point where they cannot transmit the messages from one part of your body to another. Typically, your brain transmits information to various parts of your body to make things work. Each of you had a glass on your table today. Some of you had tea, some of you had water, some of you had something else in the glass. Picture wanting to take a drink out of that glass. Your brain will tell your arm to reach. Your brain will then tell your hand to cup the glass. Your brain will then tell your arm to bring the glass off the table toward your lips. Your brain will then tell your hand to tip the glass so that you can drink from the glass. If those connectors in your brain were damaged, none of that could happen smoothly. And that essentially is a pictorial of what Alzheimer's does to your brain. It eliminates the connectors, and it eliminates the ability for the messages to go from brain to the parts of your body that need to function. As Alzheimer's becomes more and more severe over the years, then serious things happen, like your brain not telling your body to breathe, your brain not telling your heart to pump. It is a progressive disease. This is simply some of the progression that occurs. These are some warning signs that you may be interested in. Essentially, as the disease progresses, things get more and more complicated in terms of your being able to function. This is a really old chart, but I'll leave it in here because on the right, the circle that says 818 billion, that was the amount of money it cost to treat Alzheimer's patients in 2015. And back then, they estimated by 2018 we'd be spending $1 trillion. That actually turned out to be $1.2 trillion. Alzheimer's is a very, very expensive disease. Let me tell you a story. I had a friend named Joe. I won't give you his last name because you may know the family. The family still lives in Columbia. He was a brilliant engineer. He built industrial plants all over the world. He came to work for me at age 60 and spent the last 5 years of his career working for me. I truly enjoyed the relationship. I learned a great deal from him. Only thing he learned from me was patience. At age 65, he retired. At age 70, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. He had an extremely aggressive form of Alzheimer's, and at age 77, we attended his funeral. I tell you that because the last 3.5 years of his existence here on earth, he was not able to communicate with anyone. Not with his 2 lovely daughters or his wife, not with anybody that he normally called a friend. He was in a shell, totally uncommunicative. If you talk to his wife or children, they will tell you that 3.5 years was the worst time of their life. We want to cure Alzheimer's, so no patient and no family has to go through that. Every patient of Alzheimer's has a caregiver. Some of those caregivers are institutional folks, and some of those caregivers are family members. If an Alzheimer's patient is cared for in the home, the family caregiver has a 42% chance of passing away before the Alzheimer's patient does. And the reason for that is all the stress-related diseases that come along. It's extremely stressful and extremely expensive to care for an Alzheimer's patient. We need to find a cure. This is simply a chart that would indicate to you that you may have Alzheimer's for a very, very long time before the symptoms actually show up. This chart indicates you may have Alzheimer's at as early as age 40, and the symptoms not show up until age 70 or 75. It sits there, unbeknownst to you, in your brain, very quietly, not doing anything, and then the symptoms begin to show up later in life. So research is focused on two things today. It's focused on finding a cure. It's also focused on finding a means by which we can postpone the onset of the symptoms. Simply postponing the onset of the symptoms 5 years tremendously increases the quality of life. This is simply a chart that would indicate to you the brain during the process. 20 years prior to the symptoms showing up, everything's just fine. We're working and we're functional, we're making decisions. Nothing is out of the ordinary. But as you go toward, say, 10 years, things begin to become a little difficult, and then in 5 years you become severely affected by Alzheimer's. We all get questions asked about, can we do anything to reduce the risk? And that is a valid question, one that everybody wants an answer to. And the folks at Emory University do lots of research related to Alzheimer's, and they put together this chart for us. The first 4 items, aging and genes and gender and head injuries, we can't do anything about. We would like to, but we can't. Once they occur, we can't do anything about them. The last 2, however, provide opportunities. Research indicates that if you do exercise as if you were a heart patient, research indicates that can drastically postpone the onset of Alzheimer's symptoms. So I would highly recommend that if you're not already exercising, that you start. The second issue is a diet, similar to is prescribed to heart patients. Mediterranean is one of those. If you begin using these kinds of diets, research indicates that you can postpone the onset of Alzheimer's. That's what the chart kind of tells you. Let me introduce you to a friend of mine. His name is Roger Ackerman. He passed away a year ago. He and his wife, Deanie, cared for her mother for 15 years while her mother had Alzheimer's. During the period of time they were caring for Deanie's mother, Roger looked for a cure for Alzheimer's and found none. He looked for someone who was doing research to find a cure and found very few of those. His most telling discovery was that in 1995, when they buried his mother-in-law, we were only spending 3 cents of every dollar of medical research on Alzheimer's. 3 cents. That has improved. It improved to 5 cents in 2015. In 2018, it's all the way up to 6.5. That's still not a lot of money for the number of folks who are affected by Alzheimer's. Once the funeral was over for his mother-in-law, Roger went to his club with a proposed project. All of you know how proposals go in Rotary clubs. You have a great idea. You think it's wonderful. You bring it to your club board, and they vote. In some cases, the vote is not only no, but hell no. In some cases, the vote is yes, we'll do that. But most of the time, the vote is yes, but now you're in charge. And that's what happened to Roger. Of course, he was fully aware that that was probably going to happen, and so he took on the task very, very willingly. His project was very simple on paper. Asked the Rotary Club members of the Rotary Club of Sumter to come on Mondays to their lunch and empty the change from their pockets. Have the club accumulate the change. When enough was accumulated, give it away in the form of a research grant. Now, 1995, people still carried change. 2019, I'll bet you maybe 2 of you in this room have change in your pocket. So, we've adjusted to cash. The Clark Fund was born in 1995. A year later, the District 7770 adopted it. It took 3 years to accumulate $100,000, and in 1999, we gave away our first grant of $100,000. Since then, we've given away a research grant every year, including 2019. Some years more than one. In 2019, we gave away 5 for a total of $1 million. Now, if you are a medical researcher, you have 3 potential sources of funding. There are others, but 3 major ones. The government, pharmaceutical companies, and NIH, National Institute of Health. Those folks want you to have proven your hypothesis before they give you money. And so we're seed money to help you prove that hypothesis. We'll get there in a minute. Card fund. C is for coins, or change, or cash. We'll take credit cards, checks, whatever you want to give us in terms of donations. AR is Alzheimer's research. That is all we do. That is everything we do. We don't do anything else except Alzheimer's research. T is for trust. Trust could mean it's a 501(c), however, we believe trust means that 100% of the donations go to research. Every single dollar you donate to us goes to research. We have an entirely separate 501(c) that covers administration. But everything you put in the bucket, everything you send to the club, from your club to the cart fund, will go to research. We're seed money. We provide seed money up to $250,000 to a researcher to go prove their hypothesis so they can then come back to the major funding sources and get additional money. This is an example. We gave Dr. Levy $100,000. He parlayed that into $32.2 million from various other sources. Dr. Levine, we gave him $250,000 and he parlayed that into $22 million. I thought the process might be of interest to some of you. We have currently sent out letters to all the various research institutions that we know of, and we expect them to respond in early December, in a couple of weeks, with letters of intent. We have an extremely good committee of volunteer researchers that go through all those submittals, and they narrow the field in mid-February to a group of about 20 or so. They ask for additional information from those researchers, and they narrow the field again to about less than 10. And in early April, we will meet with the funding committee and determine who gets how much. And in the second week of May, we distribute the checks. Alzheimer's is a puzzle, a really interesting puzzle. And we continue to find pieces of that puzzle. For instance, research has given us 2 very, very reliable tests now that you can have the test done and determine if you have the markers for future Alzheimer's disease. One of those is a PET scan of your brain. It's extremely expensive, and insurance typically does not pay for it. The other is a very inexpensive but invasive spinal tap. Both of those can tell you right off the bat if you have the markers for future Alzheimer's disease. A lot of people are having those done. I caution anybody in this room who wants to have those tests done, be sure before you do that you're willing to accept the answer. If you're one of these folks who worries a lot, don't get the test done. Because you will spend a lot of years worrying about whether you have the Alzheimer's disease, waiting for the symptoms to show up, and that's not good. If, however, you want to change some things and make sure you leave a legacy, go for it, get the test done. Alzheimer's research has also indicated to us that Alzheimer's comes in at least three varieties. That would tell us that when we find a cure, we have to find 3 different cures. One size will not fit all. It's kind of like cancer. You can't treat every patient the same way. Alzheimer's is going to be one of those diseases where you cannot treat every patient the same way. And the card fund is going to be in here for the long haul. We promise you we'll be around until every patient has an opportunity for success. These are some of the objectives of research. We obviously want to find a cure, but we also want to find a way to postpone the onset. For every 5 years that you postpone the onset, you can save about 12,000 lives. 5.8 million people in the U.S. today have Alzheimer's, and every one of those has a caregiver. We do this, we collect money and give it away to researchers because every family deserves that their loved one should have a cure. When you pass the bucket, remember Rotarians make a difference. Every dollar that goes in your bucket goes to research. There are a number of ways to contribute. One is through your club by putting money in the blue buckets. Two is to go to their website, www.cartfund.org, and there's a donate button. You can do it with a credit card, or you can write a check and send it to that address. Questions? Yes, sir.
Could you give us an example of the research that you funded and some of the people that have received the grants that parlay those into bigger grants? What's the most exciting thing you've seen them come up with or discover?
The test. The test that shows us the markers is probably the most significant. The other thing, some other things that we found is that they've determined that inflammation of the brain tends to make the tau tangles and the amyloid beta plaques grow faster. So if we can remove or reduce inflammation in the brain, that would be a major step toward postponing the onset. Several things like that have come about in research. We don't have a cure, but we know a great deal more now than we did even 5 years ago.
I read an article recently that the Alzheimer's disease was thought to be, the source was thought to be dental decay, dental infections. Is that disproven? Because that seems to have gone away. They thought they were very close to a cure.
That's not a yes or no answer. Dental problems create inflammation in the body, and so there may be a connection between the inflammation from the dental problems and the inflammation that causes the tau tangle. That's not been proven or disproven. That is a problem that they're still working on. In fact, two of the researchers in Kentucky and one in St. Louis are all focused on that specific issue. How do you reduce inflammation in the body? Because we know that tau tangles and amyloid beta plaques are magnified and they grow faster with inflammation. Good question, thank you.
What about the thing about drinking out of aluminum cans?
Research indicates that aluminum is not connected to Alzheimer's. There's a lot of issues out there that people would like to connect to Alzheimer's that would be easy to stop doing, but that's one of those that they said there's not a real connection.
It started with one club in Sumter. Do you have any idea on how many clubs and or states are now using the Heart Fund? Is this still like this Rotary International going to adopt this program?
Let me answer the second question first. Rotary is completely focused on polio. And Rotary will not adopt anything else until polio is completely eradicated. There are a lot of things like Alzheimer's that are on the plate for the board to consider. And we know for a fact they've actually talked about both Alzheimer's and water, but they're not going to adopt anything until polio's already off the table. We started with one club. We now have about 1,200 clubs actively supporting CART with the buckets. We have more than that where it's an on again, off again kind of thing. We only count them if they contribute every year. So it's well over 1,200 clubs. In terms of number of states, I cannot answer that with a good answer. I know we go from upstate New York to Florida, west to Colorado, but there's some blank spaces along the way.
If you do suspect possible dementia, Alzheimer's, what steps would a person or family take to ease that burden?
My advice would be to have your family physician do a good workup on you or your family member. There are memory tests that can be done to rule out Alzheimer's. There are lots of other tests that can be done to determine if it's one of the other dementias. But a good family physician can either do it or recommend a place for you to get it done.
But what do you do if you do get a positive result from that?
Enjoy every single day along the way would be my advice.
subject. From the researchers on down, and Rod, without a shadow of a doubt, this is the best I've ever heard. Thank you.
Thank you so much for spending the time with us and for that incredible information. I can't say it's all good news, in fact, it's not, but the least we can do is to raise money to help prevent, do the research to help prevent this disease. So thank you for spending the time with us, and a little token of appreciation. Okay, we will not meet next week because it's Thanksgiving. I hope you all have a wonderful Thanksgiving. And the week after, where is President Mason?
The week after, we're going to have a special club assembly. We're going to elect our new board members and talk about the future of the club. We're also going to have a canned food drive. That's December 2nd. You'll be hearing more about that from Cynthia's email, but December 2nd, canned food drive.
Great, thank you very much. Now, Rusty?